All right, good afternoon. Today is Saturday, July 20th. We are here in Tokyo with Uno-san, Kimoto-san, and yours truly. We are discussing globalization and globalism. The title of the series is How Are We Going to Fix Globalization? Well, first of all, why does globalization need fixing? In the initial video, we looked at a interview or basically a panel with Ian Bremmer, and Ian Bremmer has written a book on globalism, and globalism is basically the political movement that promotes globalization. Globalization is actually an economic phenomenon where economic relationships are being established across countries, across the world actually. So the economy is becoming more and more interlinked. So there are more economic relationships between countries like ever before, and this has been facilitated by technology, by legal by legal synchronization, by transportation, developments in transportation, by interconnectedness of the financial world, by corporate governance that has increased dramatically throughout the years, and by the fact that basically the world has been dominated by the United States for a very long time. After the communism has ceased to exist. Well, you could argue that China is still communist, but that is a really a system that is unique to China. But mainly there's not been a dichotomy in the world for quite a few decades, which has led to economies to getting closer and closer together. So that's globalization. And globalization, if we look at the developments over the past 30 years, what we see is that actually poverty, I think 30 years ago, about 2/3 of the world population was living in poverty. At the moment, I think it's less than 20%, is that correct? Yeah, less than 20% of the world is living in poverty. So we have made an enormous progress in terms of reducing poverty. We have made enormous progress in raising the life expectancy. Healthcare has has dramatically improved, and these things have been driven partly by globalization. So globalization, if you look at it from a distance, you can say, well, globalization has been very good for the world. It has brought a lot of it's brought a lot of poorer countries out of poverty into a developing state. What's wrong? You would argue. Well, what's wrong is that actually what was sold under the political movement of globalization, globalism.
Yeah, globalization itself gives them job opportunity. Yep. So many people get out from poverty.
Yes.
But cause instead advanced country, they are losing job.
Exactly. But
this is a point of globalism, right?
Exactly. That is exactly the point. But the issue that we have is that actually this has never been talked about. This was never part of this was never considered, because what politicians, scientists, economists have always argued is that well, because of globalization, we will see a rise in GDP. A rise in GDP means an increase in demand, means an increase in employment. So globalization, as it stands, is good for us all. But the reality is that it's not. It has proven not to be good for all. And this is not only about globalization. Actually, this is also about the technological progress. And a lot of people, a lot of middle class people, especially in the developed nations like the United States, Europe, Japan, have witnessed a stagnation of wages.
Stagnation? It's a stalemate, right?
Yeah, stalemate. Basically, there has not been an increase in real wages in United States, in Europe, in Japan. When you look at the middle class workers, and actually
they're losing jobs. Right?
They're also, yeah, on top of that, they're losing jobs, and they're now even more threatened losing jobs because of rapid development of technology, AI, robotics, driverless vehicles, you name it. More people are threatened to lose their jobs in the near future, while a few people, only a handful of people, will get extremely rich from these developments. A lot of people will not see any benefit. And this is actually leading to a political movement, a populist movement, where politicians are addressing these issues directly with the population. They are usually mavericks. They are people that people do not come from the traditional political parties. They are because the traditional political parties do not address this issue. This is left versus right. This is about, okay, are we going to provide a lot of government support or less government influence in our country? But that's basically left-wing and right-wing politics. But what the populist leaders are selling is actually that, okay, it doesn't matter whether you vote left or right. This is the elite. The elite, the politicians, the scientists, the economists, they are the ones who have been cheating you for many years, because the system as they created it, the whole idea of globalization, the system is rigged. The system is rigged in favor of the elites, in favor of the kids of the elite. But you and I, the regular workers, do not benefit from globalization. We lose our jobs to Mexicans. We lose our jobs to Chinese. It's not fair that we need to compete with the cost structure that we have in the United States. We cannot survive on the same wages that our multinationals are paying in China, or in Africa, or in Bangladesh, wherever in the world. So it's unfair competition. Therefore, we need to close our borders. We need to go back to where we were. We need to re-establish the middle class. And there is now a movement of isolation going on. England wants to get out of the EU. United States is retreating from all kinds of trade deals, and they are closing borders with Mexico, which, if you think about it, is probably not going to solve any problems. But this is what people want. This is what they have been thinking about for a long time. But nobody in the political, in the traditional political sphere, was actually addressing these issues.
But actually, those populist idea is they can give any solutions, because China is okay, still cheap. But if they try to close border, Mexico is a closed border, still does not solve the problem.
Doesn't solve the problem.
Bangladesh, Africa is also, they need job, right?
Those are band-aids that are not going to stop the bleeding.
Exactly. So this kind of tendency will moving around. So America, low class people, red, blue, white color people, they're losing job. But this is no way to solve. They try to close border.
Well, we don't know if there is no way. I mean, maybe there is a way.
No. I'm talking about no way to close border.
Right. That's not.
And
that's
they have something, different way to solve the solution instead of closing border.
Right.
So actually, Trump doing is he understands, but his action is not right. So need to consider for. We need to also consider for keep giving the job to Africa, keep giving the job to Bangladesh, keep giving job for developing countries. Otherwise, they can get more, escaping from poverty.
Right.
So
they will come. They will come.
Yeah, exactly. So we try to do that, but the other whereas okay, developed country, low wages, low class people is getting more and more people. They have problem, right? So we need to solve these issues,
right?
Instead of closing border.
Right. So that is it's a solution for that for those problems. There will probably not be 100%, but there are solutions, feasible solutions. For example, retraining of people.
No, last week we discussed universal basic income.
Yes,
right?
that's another solution.
Yeah.
No, but actually, so if you retraining costs time, and if you have a full-time job, so retraining, basically, if you wait to be retrained until it's too late, until you lose your job, you will be unemployed for quite some time until you have retrained and to be able to re-enter the job, the labor market in a different position. Like, for example, you're now becoming a programmer. It's not something you learn in a week or two. This is something that takes time.
Exactly.
Right. So that time, that we need to acknowledge the fact that people will not simply move from job A to job B without any frictions. There are frictions. You need time to basically to prepare yourself for a new job, to become proficient, to retrain yourself in a way that you can get a new job. Now, how are we going to support people during that time, for example?
So I think this kind of categorize what kind of people we're going to provide some basic income. What kind of people we're going to provide for the educational training for the people, or young and old, and how we're going to consider for that. This is a big issue.
That is a big issue.
Right? So, for example, aging people, we try to give them programming. This is very hard for them.
Right.
So we need to consider some,
aging people. I mean, it's actually ideal because you don't need. It's not a physical job. It's a mental job, and it doesn't matter whether you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, as long as your brain functions well. Everybody should be capable of actually doing this kind of job.
I tell you one example. American compared with Japanese. Japanese, they never hire aged people.
Right.
Right. And even if they have skill or talent,
I think this will change though. I think
not yet. Not yet. I had hard 6 months to get job, right? So not easy. Everybody hate to hire aged people, even if they have skill or knowledge whatsoever, and not like American way. So these sort of things we need to change the way.
Yes.
And the government need to categorize what kind of training or basic income, what kind of provide service for the people. We need to clarify what they're going to do. So still some cases we have some difficulty. We have, for example, case of Japan, we cannot provide basic income for many people. No budget, right? And pension plans also have problem in future.
Yeah.
Kind of problem we have, right?
But if we are not going to do it, then what's going to happen with a large number of people? They will fall between the cracks and they will become unemployed. If that number becomes too high, poverty becomes rampant. That society gonna get under pressure. So that may mean that we need to increase taxes, or we need to find ways that we're going to finance it, because without it, this society will also come under a lot of pressure.
I have a simple question, for you. My age is 71 years old. This is baby boomer. This kind of my age aging people, so many people now out of current population. But what are they living? How are they to keep their living? I don't know. What they're doing now? Many people cannot survive only the pension plan. What they're doing, this is my interest in. I don't hear any kind of problems, or I don't hear any kind of issues.
Actually, so I was having dinner last night, and I was
what?
I was having dinner last night, and the table next to me, there was a man and a woman were having dinner, and I think he was close to 80. She was maybe late 60s, and they were discussing like, oh yeah, so you have another 10 years ahead of you. I have another 20 years ahead of you. I have a lot of financial difficulties and challenges to survive another 20 years.
What are they going to do?
I don't know. I think she was aiming to hook up with the older guy and make sure that she would be.
My case is okay, even if I'm an Asian person, but I can find my job based upon my skills. But usually, not so many people can find job. What are they going to do next 20 years?
This is going to be a disaster. I think that these people will retreat from society. They will move to very small, like share house, and will live at the edge of society, not spending any money and just trying to hold on to life.
Can they?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm very worried about it.
This is, I think, social problem, right?
Yeah.
My concern is many Asian people, they have skill. They can work instead of just only try to warehouse keeper kind of job, but we can utilize their skill. But company don't want to use them.
Exactly.
Right. This is Japanese typical cases. One example is university, but America, they have university professor is
70, 80, no problem.
Right. This is
it's a position for life.
Yes. But Japan is 62 or 65 years old. Even if they have skill, talent, knowledge, but fire them. This is very strange, right? This is one example. But
right, and then so a friend of mine, he was an economist at the University of Tokyo. He basically, after 62 or 65 or something, he was fired.
Yeah.
Then now he's working for a different university at 1/3 of the money, and he has to work harder than he had to work when he was working for Tokyo University. He's working he wrote a book. I'm reading it right now. It's ridiculously detailed and well documented.
Right.
About the Japanese economy and lessons for the world, for an aging society. It's very detailed. It's really good book. But yeah, I mean, for 1/3 of his salary, I mean, this guy is perfectly capable of writing books or writing materials that it's nothing to do with aging.
But the government, they don't do anything at all for that kind of issues.
Nothing.
Why?
Maybe they can't touch because actually you think the government, if the government says you all have to hire all the people that they will
do it? Interesting. Asian People Association, they don't have it?
Actually, it's actually a good question, because they are thinking about bringing more women into the workplace, etc. But they should be, if you really want.
Women is understand, but Asian Persons Association, I'm talking about. Old Persons Association looking for jobs.
In the Netherlands we have it, no?
You have it?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In Japan we don't have it. Like current election, and many women candidate.
Yeah.
And none of people talking about how to protect the aged people.
I saw there was one woman in front of my station. She was trying to sell the idea, said that she was particularly she was aiming to support people who were living by themselves.
What do you mean living by themselves? She's old?
No, she was not that old, but there are a lot of single people living everywhere in Tokyo.
Yeah, especially Asian people is currently over 60 years old, like Kimoto, they're single. They don't get married. Woman is the same.
So
they are more convenient living single.
So めんどくさい to live with Kimoto.
Right, exactly. But this is a current world, especially globalization caused lots of problem, but also developing countries, they got a lot of benefit. But developed countries also they got benefit, but pros and cons, right?
Of course, because actually they are still very fragile. If they don't tap into, for example, the new possibilities of AI and robotics and all these things.
This is the other issues, big issues.
Yeah.
Is coming now.
Because they need to adopt them very quickly, because if they don't work with them, then they will become superfluous, and then all of a sudden those jobs that were so prevalent in Bangladesh will move to a different country.